those issues. So first one we'll see is keyboard related issues. So there are two types of basically keyboard uh, I mean from where we can connect it. Basically you can you have that the USB port wala keyboard which is connected to the USB port. One is the PS2 port. So if you see your the cabinet, the desktop wala cabinet, so you can see at the back, you can see there are two ports, like one is purple, that you can see in the image also, the one is purple and one is green. So the purple one is for the keyboard. If there is a PS2 keyboard, so you can connect it there. And if you have a PS2 mouse, you can connect to the green one. If the image, you can see it in the image that is there. So whenever you turn on the computer and you find that the keyboard is not working and none of the lights are glowing, so basically you have to check whether the cable is properly connected. So in the PS2, what happens at times, there are pins in the PS2 ports. So when you connect it, if it is not working, you have to check whether the PS2 ports are bent. So basically, if a keyboard is not working, so it can be either the port issue of the port, and it can be the issue of the keyboard itself, keyboard ka connector. So you have to check by, you can check it by removing it from that and connecting it to some other system. That way you will get to know if there's an issue in the keyboard connector or the port of the computer system. So anyone who has faced keyboard related issues earlier, you can please tell us in the chat box. And also, if you've resolved it, how have you resolved it? What have you, found out? Ever have you done? No. So basically, purple one is for the keyboard. The green one is for the mouse. Okay. I don't think anyone has ever got this. But then if you ever get this kind of issue that the keyboard is not working, please, there can be two things. You have to first find out what is the issue, basically. So is the issue in the port of the computer itself, or the issue with the keyboard connector? So you can try it out by using another system, connecting it to another system. That way you'll get to know, basically. Okay, so moving on, same ways I told you guys, because the mouse is the green port is the mouse port where we connect the mouse. So you can see in the image as well. So the same ways you can check mouse also. It may be the issue of the port, or it may be the issue of the mouse connector. So you have to check whether the problem is with mouse or the port. So um, uh, I mean, are you understanding?
Yes, Shivani, it's clear. You can go ahead. If there are any issues, they can put it in the chat box. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So like I told you, there can be ports issue. So that brings us to the Ethernet cable related issues. So if you remember, when I told you about the Ethernet cable, we also talked about the LAN tester. So I'll tell you the possible reasons for which the symptoms which shows that cable is not working properly. The cable loses connection. There is an intermittent or slow connection, and when you wiggle it a bit, the connection is restored. Basically, so these issues can be due to cable not working properly. So you can use the LAN tester to test whether the Ethernet cable is fine. It also can be, as I told you in the earlier slide as well, it can be the issue of the Ethernet port as well in this case also. So you have to check it. You can, if you do not have a LAN tester, you can also connect it to two other pairs of systems to check whether the LAN is working properly or not. So that ways you can check if the issue is with the LAN or the LAN port, Ethernet port that is in the system. Am I clear? I hope you have seen the video of crimping tool. In that crimping tool, we have shown you the work of LAN tester. You please go and check. You see the LAN. There's this image of the LAN tester in the slide as well. So you see that you can see those two ports, the two Ethernet ports. You have to connect one side of the cable to this to one port and the other to the other port, and that ways you just have to put it on and you can just check whether it is working correctly or not. Or also there can be an issue with the Ethernet driver. I told you about drivers in the earlier sessions. It also can be that the driver has some issues, so you have to update the driver in that case. Anyone who has faced this kind of issue, Ethernet cable not working, you have resolved it in some ways, you can tell us. Please tell us in the chat box.
Yeah, and meanwhile, there is a good question that I think we missed. So, Uma madam asking about if pins damaged in purple one, what can we do? So this is related to the PS2 mouse pin. Generally, many of us must have faced this issue, which is mentioned by madam. So if anybody wants to comment on that, meanwhile, please do. Or Shivan, you want to suggest anything? But if the pins inside the port, the small pins, which is a bunch of small uh, kind of small sticks, kind of combination of the inside the mouse pin. If that is bent or something, then what can we do? That is the question.
Satej.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Actually, Kumarity sir, not madam.
Oh, sorry,
Sir.
sorry. Sir or madam,
Sir.
yeah. So,
Sir, question.
thank you, sir. So that is actually a really good observation, and he must have faced this issue sometime. So, anyone faced and done any workaround for this?
Can I
No?
answer this?
Yes, please go ahead.
ఓకే సార్, ఇప్పుడు మనకు డ్యామేజ్ పిన్స్ కనుక డ్యామేజ్ అయితే ప్రాబ్లం ఎలా ఉంటుంది అంటే, పిన్స్ బెండ్ అయింది అనుకోండి ఆ పోర్ట్లో, ఇది మన కీబోర్డ్ నుంచి వచ్చే వైర్కి ఉన్న పిన్స్ బెండ్ అయితే మనం కేర్ఫుల్గా కొంచెం స్టే చేసి కనెక్ట్ చేసుకోవచ్చు, ప్రాబ్లం లేదు. మీరు ఒకవేళ బెండ్ అయిన పిన్స్ని మీరు స్టే చేయడానికి ట్రై చేసే టైంలో ఇన్ కేస్ మనం ఫోర్స్ కనుక గట్టిగా పెట్టేసి అన్నామనుకోండి, కింద నుంచి కంప్లీట్గా పిన్ అనేది ఇరిగిపోతుంది. అప్పుడు మనకు ఆ కేబుల్ పనిచేయదు. సో కొంచెం కేర్ఫుల్గా కొంచెం స్ట్రేట్గా అనుకుంటా వెళ్ళడమే అది కరెక్ట్. ఇంకొకటి, ఇన్ కేస్ పోర్ట్ లోపల కనుక పిన్స్ కనుక ఇరిగితే మాత్రం అది అడ్జస్ట్ చేయడం చాలా కష్టం. అంటే దానిలోకి ఇలా పిన్స్ తీయడం కష్టం అనమాట. కొంచెం కనుక బయటకు ఉంటే పిన్స్, వాటిని మనం చిన్న పట్కా టైప్ ఉంటుంది, దాంతో తీస్తే వస్తుంది. కటింగ్ ప్లేట్ టైప్ లాగా ఉంటుంది, దాంతో తీస్తే వస్తుంది. ఇన్ కేస్ దానికంటే లోపలికి కనుక పోయింది అనుకోండి, అప్పుడు మనం ఆ పోర్ట్ని PS2 పోర్ట్ని కంప్లీట్ చేంజ్ చేయాల్సి వస్తుంది. ఈ రెండు సొల్యూషన్స్ మాత్రమే ఉంది. కేబుల్ కూడా దొరుకుతుంది మనకు, కీబోర్డ్ నుంచి కానీ మౌస్ నుంచి వచ్చిన కేబుల్ కూడా మనం చేంజ్ చేసుకోవడం ఛాన్స్ ఉంటుంది. కాకపోతే దానికంటే మనం కొత్త తీసుకోవడం బెటర్. ఓకే, go ahead, Shivan.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, so we were talking about the Ethernet cable issues. So you can test it via the LAN tester, or you can test it by checking into the connecting to the other systems to check if those are working. If that is working, you also see there are three things that can happen in case Ethernet cable is not working. One, the Ethernet cable has issues. One, the port of your system has issues, Ethernet port. One, the Ethernet drivers in your system are have some issues. In that case, that needs to be updated. In case there is issue with the Ethernet port, it has to be it has to be basically changed, or you have to check for the pins. There are some pins, you can see metallic pins. Probably they might have bent or something like that would have happened. Or if there is the problem with the LAN Ethernet cable only, then might be some wires have been are loose or something like that. The connector is not connected properly. Something has been, the wire has come out or something of that sort would have happened. So so moving on, if you remember in the previous sessions, we talked about CMOS battery. When we talked about BIOS, we talked about CMOS chip. There we talked about the CMOS battery. So that time also I told you that there are some symptoms which are for the CMOS battery failure. That is, the laptop or your system is having difficulty in booting up. There is a constant beeping noise from the motherboard. The date and time have reset, or the peripherals, the system computers parts are not very responsive. Hardware drivers have disappeared. And you cannot connect to the internet. These are some issues. These are some symptoms of the CMOS battery failure. So in that case, you have to replace your CMOS battery. You can buy it yourself. It is you'll get it anywhere. It is. So what you have to do is you have to take that out and put the other CMOS new battery, the new CMOS battery that you bought. Yeah, we have a video of this. We have a link of this of the video how to replace the CMOS battery in the course. Some of you might have already seen it. This is what you can do basically when the CMOS battery has some issues. You can replace it. About replacing, you'll get it in the course. If you have ever faced this and you have resolved this issue, you can please tell us in the chat box. Many of you might have faced the CMOS battery issues. Many of you. So how have you resolved it, or you would have seen someone resolve this issue? You can tell us if you have. Okay, I don't think anyone. Okay, someone has done it. Srinivas. Okay, yes, sir. Great.
Hello, good morning, everybody. So, am I audible to speak?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah. So, there is nothing new that I can actually add to what Shivani has just now said. When I was using a desktop way back, say 5-6 years ago, I think it's been close to 10 years. Then 10 years since I discarded using a desktop. So when I was using a desktop, my motherboard had some issues with the CMOS battery. So the battery, I had it changed myself because the battery is very simple. There are no connections involved. There is no integration, any kind of integration involved. You will have to open the cabinet and find the place where the battery is located and then replace it with the newer one. It's a very small battery. It looks like a small, 5 rupees coin, and that used to cost me 40 rupees or something then. So without CMOS battery, it will be very difficult for a computer to run, because everything, in fact, may not depend on CMOS battery. But if there is no CMOS battery, if there is no proper battery installed on the PCs, then nothing works properly, because everything keeps changing. The system keeps restarting. It doesn't start. It will not be very stable. So it keeps restarting whenever it wants. So it's very important. It's just in addition to what she said, the importance of CMOS battery.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So moving forward, okay, these now we'll start with the hard disk related issues. As I told you in earlier sessions, that the hard disk is very important. Without the internal hard disk, the computer doesn't work. So it has everything starting from the operating system to all the files, softwares, etc. So there can be this hard disk can crash. Many of the time it happens that after so many years of use, the hard disk is crashed. So what are the symptoms? First, we'll talk about that. Overheating, strange noises. You see the BSOD error, that is the blue screen of death. The spindle motor will be stuck. The device will be not be able to boot. There'll be bad sectors that will prevent the data access. So basically, you can see that blue screen that you can see it in the slide as well. So that is called the blue screen of death. So basically, when the system crashes, it can happen due to various reasons. That your RAM might create this issue, your hard disk might create this issue. So because of this screen appears that, and what happens is the booting keeps on happening. That is, it boots, and again, I mean, that process continues. It doesn't come out of that process. So what happened, I'll tell you my own experience once. One of my laptops, what happened is it kept on booting. I mean, that booting process, it continued. Once it booted, it got stopped, again it started booting. So when I went to show it to some place, so there I got to know that the hard disk has crashed. In that case, they replaced the hard disk. You can replace the hard disk as well if you have a system, desktop system. You can remove the plugs and you can connect some other hard disk. So basically, you can check whether the hard disk is not working or whether there is some other issue. If the hard disk is not working, you can check it by removing the plugs. First, you have to put it off. I mean, shut down the computer, remove the hard disk, take it out and put it into some other computer, some other desktop, and connect it and check if it is the desktop is if the hard disk is working or not. So that way you can check it. So one more thing happens is when the hard disk doesn't have space left. So basically hard disk gets full. One of my colleagues faced this issue. She had an Ubuntu system. The hard disk had Ubuntu operating system. So what happened is the hard disk the boot it started booting and it got stuck. And at one place it got stuck and it does not come. I mean, the other booting process could not follow up. So basically what happened is when we tried to check, we found out that the hard disk is full. So that also can be an issue. So basically might be your hard disk is full, your hard disk has crashed. There might be things that basically some system files have been removed, so that for that reasons also there can be issues. So you can check if your hard disk is working or not by moving it to some other system. It can be that your hard disk is not being recognized by the system. You'll get that the no hard disk found. Some issues like that also keep occurring. So when you get that issue, it may be that some of your BIOS settings are not fine. You can go to your BIOS settings. As I told you, you can access your BIOS settings. You can go to your BIOS settings. You can check it.
Oi. Edki.
So you can just check if your if the settings are correct, if it is able to find it there. Was I clear? If you have any issues, you can please write in the chat box. Was it clear to everyone? Am I audible? Hello?
Yes, you're audible. Can someone summarize this or in Telugu so that it gets repeated as well as and also translated? Because like there are number of reasons because of which it might happen. That's what Shivani mentioned. So, or if everybody got to know, then that's good. Swami Ramnakar or Arshad.
యా యాక్చువల్గా ఇప్పుడు శివాని చెప్పినట్టుగా హార్డ్ డిస్క్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూ ఏంటి అంటే హార్డ్ డిస్క్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూ కానీ లేకపోతే ర్యామ్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూ ఏదున్నా కానీ యాక్చువల్గా మనకి బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ వస్తుంది. అంటే బిఎస్ఓడి అంటాం. అంటే బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ ఆఫ్ డెత్. అంటే మిడిల్ లో మనకు డివైస్ ప్రాబ్లం, హార్డ్ డిస్క్ డివైస్ కానీ ర్యామ్ ప్రాబ్లం కానీ వచ్చినప్పుడు ఇది మెయిన్ గా బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ రావడం. బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ వచ్చి ఫిజికల్ మెమరీ ఎర్రర్ అని వచ్చి అది సిస్టమ్ అనేది హ్యాంగ్ అయిపోయి బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ లో మనకి ఇట్లా చూపిస్తుంది అనమాట. దీన్ని బిఎస్ఓడి అంటాం. అంటే బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ ఆఫ్ డెత్. ఇది మెయిన్ గా మనకి 2 ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ వల్ల ఎన్కౌంటర్ అవుతుంది. ఏంటి అంటే ఒకటి వచ్చేసి ర్యామ్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉండొచ్చు, సెకండ్ వన్ వచ్చేసి హార్డ్ డిస్క్ ప్రాబ్లం ఉండొచ్చు. ఈ 2 ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ లో ఏదైనా ఒకటి ద్వారా మనం బిఎస్ఓడి అనే ప్రాబ్లమ్ ఫేస్ చేయగలుగుతాం. దీన్ని ఓవర్కమ్ చేయాలంటే మనం ఫస్ట్ బేసిక్ గా ఒకసారి ర్యామ్ ని తీసి మళ్ళీ క్లీన్ చేసి మళ్ళీ రీఇన్సర్ట్ చేయాలి. ఇన్ కేస్ అలా అయిన తర్వాత ఒకవేళ కాకుండా కూడా ఒకసారి స్లాట్ చేంజ్ చేసి ర్యామ్ స్లాట్ ని ఉన్న ఎగ్జిస్టింగ్ స్లాట్ లో కాకుండా పక్కన ఉన్నటువంటి ఇంకొక స్లాట్ లో పెట్టి చూసి చేయొచ్చు. ఇన్ కేసు ఇలా చేసినా కూడా కాకపోతే ఒకసారి హార్డ్ డిస్క్ కేబుల్స్ ని డిస్కనెక్ట్ చేసి మళ్ళీ కనెక్ట్ చేసి చూడడం, ఇటువంటి ట్రబుల్ షూటింగ్స్ మనము చేయడం వల్ల ఈ బిఎస్ఓడి ఎర్రర్ ని మనం సాల్వ్ చేయగలుగుతాం. ఓకే శివాని.
Okay, so moving forward, we'll move to RAM related issues. So
Shivani, there is a question in the chat box. Is there any chance to recover hard disk errors?
Okay, if the hard disk has crashed, you have to change it. Basically, you can recover the data, but then in case of a hard disk crash, you have to change it. But if there is some issues like the hard disk is not getting some part of the hard disk, some files have got corrupted, those things you can basically the hard disk can be retrieved. But in case of the hard disk crash thing, you have to just change it. There's no other thing you can do.
So basically you are saying that it depends upon what error or what issue or what is the cause of that error because of which the hard disk is giving some error.
Yes.
So based on different levels of issues and cause, you like some issues or causes can be possible to recover the data from the hard disk, and for some things like if the hard disk itself is got crashed, then it is not possible to recover the hard disk data and all, right? Okay.
Yeah, okay. So moving on to RAM related issues, as I told you that errors in the RAM also can create to the BSOD screen that I told you. So when you so some symptoms of RAM problem, I'll tell you. Basically, when you start your computer, it runs fine, but then when you start doing some kind of work, the performance gradually, I mean, it goes down, so it deteriorates. So this can be due to RAM problem. So when you it may happen that you're working on it and on the system, and it randomly restarts. So something, I mean, uh, uh, out of nowhere, it restarts. So it can have, this can be due to the RAM problem. The BSODI, as I told you, it can be due to the RAM problem. Basically, some files can get corrupted due to this issue. There, I mean, some while installing some softwares, it can happen that some softwares are not getting installed. This can be due to the RAM issues. So one more thing can happen, that it, one one problem is, if you when you start the system, you'll see no signal, that no signal will be coming. So that can happen due to the dust on the RAM. Okay, so what you have to do in that case, you have to remove the RAM, you have to clean the part that is connected to the motherboard. So you have to clean it and you have to replace it back. Many of the issues can be resolved by doing this thing, but then RAM can create more problems as well. See, if you have less, RAM is less, so it can happen that your programs are not working fine, because RAM, you have less RAM in it. So that can also happen. So it can basically, your softwares that you have installed are getting affected due to RAM issues. Anyone who has ever faced this issue, and any of these issues related to RAM, and you have worked on it, or you have seen anyone work on it, or any issues if you've got related to RAM? Anyone? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, you're audible.
So one more thing, if you have issues, your RAM is very less, you realize that your system has very less, the RAM is very less, so you have more RAM ports connected to the motherboard. You can expand your RAM. You would have heard the word expandable RAM, this much expandable up to this much in your when you have basically bought some.
I think we lost Shivani's voice, the connection.
Hello.
Yeah, now we can hear you. We just yeah, go ahead.
Anyone who has faced this kind of issues? Anyone, RAM related issues, any issues you have faced? We'll actually talk about the issues you have faced in the last session also. You can just tell us.
In the chat, Mahesh sir have
Okay.
mentioned one scenario. Yeah.
Okay. Someone has said that Mahesh has said that my monitor is getting off sometimes. If I remove RAM and put it once again, it is working. But this is happening many times. Okay. Monitor issues due to RAM. Okay, I haven't actually come across it. Okay, so we'll be this issue we can talk about it in the next 2 sessions. Basically, we'll be having a session where we'll be addressing all your issues.
Yeah, and meanwhile, I'll just suggest, Mahesh sir, that whenever you remove the RAM, please try to clean it with some smooth cloth, as well as the slot of the RAM. Just blow it with the air, so that if there is any dust particles sitting in between or on the RAM, uh, that gets cleaned up, and you might not face this issue again, if it is because of the RAM slot or dust sitting in between the RAM and the slot. Yeah, and yeah, so the problem you have mentioned about CPU is running, but the monitor is not showing, or it is blinking or going off. Yes, so it can, like, the RAM can be one of the reason of that issue. Yeah, the question is, what are the causes of damage of the RAM? Hello. So anybody wants to comment on? The question is, what are the causes of damage of the RAM, or what are the causes to damage RAM? And meanwhile, I'll just read out Mahesh sir's response. I tried them, but still I'm getting that problem. Okay, so you tried cleaning and all. So we would like to understand the scenario, Mahesh sir. So if uh, you have only single RAM in the CPU, or in your cabinet, or you have two RAMs, and also if there are like if you have one RAM but you have multiple slots, you can use other slot to put in and check. So this is the second check that you can do. Yeah, so you have two RAMs. So what you can do is you can just alternately use one RAM at a time to start the machine and use it, and see if either of them is giving the problem. Then then the second combination that you need to check is whether any slot of the two is giving the problem. So you have to do four combinations, and then so here the chances might be like one of the RAM is doing or causing that, or one of the slot is causing the problem. And try to also observing on uh, like what is the pattern when it is happening. Like you said, like when you do that, it is working for some time, or after some time it's getting again the same issue. So what is that pattern, how after how much duration it is giving the problem, or if in certain scenario. So all these permutations, combinations will help to get to some conclusion. Okay, so anyone, meanwhile, what are the causes to damage RAM? Then second question, why shut down desktop suddenly? Okay, so desktop shut down suddenly, that can be of due to multiple reasons. So anybody wants to comment on these two, three questions? The second last question is, can I replace 512 MB RAM with 1 GB RAM? Okay, that is also some good question. Anybody wants to answer or comment on this? Yeah, so Mahesh sir mentioned about overheating may be the reason to damage the RAM. Yes, that is one of the reason that can damage the RAM. Improper shutdown. Yes. Okay. Do you think like too much of dust and moisture also can cause malfunctioning of the RAM? Voltage fluctuation. Yes. System freeze. There might be RAM problem. Yes. Yes. Improper insert. Yes. Yes. Perfect. So these are like really uh, gist of the reasons or the causes. Or Swami also mentioned about sudden power cut. Yeah, sudden power cut can be a cause of multiple, not only RAM, but yeah. So yes, that is also one of the. Okay, so I think we answered this overheating and also damage. Why RAM can damage, and also. So I think yeah. So this question is interesting. Can I replace 512 MB RAM with 1 GB RAM? Can we do that? And if yes, in what scenarios? And if no, in what scenarios we can't? Anybody? If the slot is supports, yes, perfect. Yeah. So sir all gave this answer. Uh, so if the hardware itself, the motherboard and the processor and these things supports has the capacity to take the RAM. So generally the older machines which are like of the age CRT monitor and all those desktops we're having, those were having each slot itself also has some limits on the capacity it can take the RAM's size. So it depends upon your hardware capacity. So generally the newer machine or hardwares do support like 2 GB RAM per slot or 4 GB RAM per slot and goes on like depending upon the configuration. Yeah. Okay. Okay, go ahead. Okay, Shivani, go ahead.
So this is it from the issues side. Maybe Telangana team wants to, I mean, tell more about other issues as well.
Okay, so there is another question. Yeah. So I request Telangana team to please go ahead. And there's one question: how should we select a suitable RAM for the system? Again, the same answer applicable for this as well. It really depends upon your hardware capacity and what it can support up to. Meaning, so in RAM also, as we have seen in the session when we introduced about the RAM component. So you have RAM with different size and also with different versions, which are like DDR2 RAM or DDR3 RAM, DDR4 RAM. So depending upon the hardware's capability and support, So what you need to do is like you need to check what is the hardware, what is the motherboard that you are using, what is the configuration of that, and what it can support up to, and what type of RAM it can support. And based on that, you can select the RAM. Can we extend the RAM in computer and how much it is? Yeah, yes, we can extend the RAM. And again, as I said, the previous question and this question, how much, is again depending upon the configuration and capability or the support can do up to. So the capacity in terms of two ways. One, the size of RAM, and the type of RAM it can support. So older the configuration, older the machine will be, older the version that you need to look for. Is there any updation for hard disk? Okay, so updation in the sense of what? Uh, updation for hard disk, meaning the similar to, like if we want to also extend the hard disk, meaning we have, for example, 500 GB hard disk, and we want to uh, I'll attach one GB 1 TB hard disk, for example. Is that what you are pointing to, sir, madam, and Srinivasan Reddy, sir? Yeah. So if that is the question, yes, we can update the hard disk's size as well. Again, we need to check, uh, like our cabinet need to have slot, so it can take two hard disks at a time. Or then if we have only one slot, then we can just take higher size hard disk and attach it to the same port and remove the older one. So depends upon slot capacity, and we have the already we have the wire and slot, otherwise we can attach it, and yes, we can extend. Is it possible to extend the RAM in laptop too, sir? Yes. So yeah, so this is, I think, one of the confusions generally we do have as a uh, uh, as a common understanding, that whenever we look at the cabinet or the like the kind of a dabba box, which is what we generally see in institutes, colleges, and uh, personally generally we use laptop. So is there any difference between the two? So uh, I would, so technically there is no difference. It's just that it is the laptop is a compact one. It is like every component is really compact and horizontally placed, whereas in the cabinet it's vertically placed, and so that is the only difference. So whatever is possible in the cabinet of the or the cabinet, the vertical box, is possible in the laptop. So there is no difference. Suggest some top laptop models. Okay. Okay, so that is again so top laptop models. So again, these are like there are different combinations that you need to think of. Firstly, of course, your budget. And apart from that, what all things that you are really looking for, meaning are you going to just doing web browsing, or you are also going to do some high end applications which are like needs more and more processing? For that you are going to use the desktop or laptop. Depending upon that, uh, you need to find out. Yeah, so Telangana team, my colleagues, please go ahead. So where my colleagues will be sharing with you some of the in next 1 or 2 sessions. Wherever they get a chance, they will be sharing with you the some experiences that they have come across on field. So here we want to tell you one thing. So if there is any issue comes in or you're facing on your laptop, desktop, or any computer, so for that one problem or issue, there can be multiple reasons, and any anyone who comes to resolve that, he or she has to try multiple things, unless like, because there are some, like how we go to a doctor and we tell us we tell about the symptoms that we are having for illness. So what does the doctor do? Based on the symptoms that we have told him or her, based on that, he will give us some combination of uh, prescriptions based on the symptoms. Because it's not like uh, but then sometimes it's like exactly the correct, most of the times they do correct prescription. Sometimes they want to also try out, because the symptoms are also like a combination of things, and based on that they do some trial and error. So maybe like 3 days they give some prescription, and then if further improvement is not happening in the patient's uh, illness or something, then they also try some different combination prescription. So similarly, when we also look at the machines problems, so there might be some symptoms which will give us the right way exact cause, because those are mostly related to one or the other component, and then we right away can identify that. But sometimes it might happen that the symptom that is shown is not related to the regular uh, cause that we generally face. So such things might happen, and so generally we need to do trial and error, different permutation combinations, like how currently the use case that Mahesh sir just mentioned about, the monitor is not showing or displaying though the CPU is running. So what cause it can have, or what is the reason because of which it is happening. So generally, as a technical person, what we suggest is like, start from the power cable or the switch that you are using. From that, whether your monitor is running properly without any issue, or is it the monitor itself is having some issue. If not, okay, so monitor is working. Then second step. So whether the power cable or the VGA cable that is connected, or HDMI cable that is connected between the monitor and CPU is having a problem. Okay, so if that is working, then third is like, okay, so if the RAM is having some issue, so and further. So these are like steps through which we need to go one by one and find out the issue. So this is what I wanted to convey. And similar things are my colleagues on field have experienced in last 3-4 years. They are working in school labs, and multiple number of times they have faced number of issues. Teachers have called them for resolving issues, and they have done it very successfully. So I would like to give them such experiences that they like want to really like some memorable ones. Like, okay, on that day they felt like, okay, this was really a great learning for me, because every day there was some regular problem was there, but then today it was really gave me a lot of learning or something like of that sort, which they can share. Yeah.
Okay, Satej, can I start? వాయిస్ వినబడుతుందా రమణాకర్?
yes go ahead.
ఓకే. ఈరోజు మనం ర్యామ్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూ గురించి నేను చెప్తాను. అంటే మన ల్యాబ్లో మేము ఇప్పటివరకు చూసిన ర్యామ్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూస్ మీకు ఇప్పుడు ఈరోజు చెప్తున్నాను నేను. ఫస్ట్ మనం ఈ ప్రాబ్లం ఎందుకు వస్తుంది అంటే ర్యామ్ది, మనం స్కూల్స్లో కొన్ని టైంలో ఏం చేస్తామంటే ల్యాబ్కు బిజీ వర్క్స్ క్లాసెస్ అవన్నీ చేపట్టి కొన్ని టైంలో 1 వీక్ పట్టొచ్చు, కొన్ని టైంలో 15 డేస్ పట్టొచ్చు. దాంతో పాటు ఇప్పుడు మనకు సమ్మర్ హాలిడేస్ వస్తే మనకు దగ్గర 1 మంత్ అట్లా హాలిడేస్ వస్తాయి. వచ్చిన తర్వాత మనం వెళ్ళేసి ల్యాబ్లో సిస్టమ్ ఆన్ చేస్తే ఏమవుతుంది అంటే సిపియు రన్ అవుతుంది, సౌండ్ వస్తుంది, సిపియు రన్ అవుతుంటుంది. కానీ మన డిస్ప్లేలో ఎలాంటి డిస్ప్లే రాదు. అంటే మనకు మదర్ బోర్డ్ యొక్క మోడల్, పేరు, F1 F2 ఇలాంటి అన్నీ వస్తాయి. అవి రాకుండా జస్ట్ బ్లాంక్గా ఉంటుంది. కింద మనకు మానిటర్ దగ్గర ఒకటి లైట్ ఆరెంజ్ కలర్ లైట్ వచ్చి అలానే ఉంటుంది. అది బ్లూ కలర్ రావాలి వాస్తవానికి. సిపియు నుంచి మానిటర్ కనెక్షన్ వచ్చింది అంటే అది ఆటోమేటిక్గా బ్లూ కలర్కి వచ్చేస్తుంది. ఒకవేళ కలర్ అది చేంజ్ కాకుండా ఆరెంజ్లో ఉంది అంటే మనకు సిపియు నుంచి దానికి కనెక్షన్ రావట్లేదు అని దాని అర్థం. అప్పుడు ఆ టైంలో మనం ఏం చేయాలంటే ర్యామ్ అని మనం తీసేసి కొంచెం నీట్గా క్లీన్ చేయాలి. ఎందుకంటే డస్ట్ ఫామ్ అయిపోయి దాంట్లో స్టక్ అయిపోతుంది. ఆ టైంలో మనం ర్యామ్ తీసేసి పెట్టేసేయాలి. మళ్ళీ ఎక్కడి నుంచి తీసామో, ఏ స్లాట్ నుంచి తీసామో అదే స్లాట్లో పెట్టేసి మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి ఆన్ చేయాలి. అయినా కూడా ఆన్ కాలేదనుకోండి ఇన్ కేస్, అప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలంటే మళ్ళీ ఆ స్లాట్ నుంచి తీసేసి ఇంకొక స్లాట్ ఉంటుంది కదా, ఆ స్లాట్లో పెట్టేసి మళ్ళీ ఒకసారి ఆన్ చేస్తే వచ్చే అవకాశం ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది. ఇది మెయిన్గా ర్యామ్లో వచ్చే ప్రాబ్లమ్స్. దాంతోపాటు ఇంకొకటి కూడా చెక్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఏంటి అంటే మనకు స్కూల్ ల్యాబ్లో పవర్ స్విచ్ బోర్డ్స్ అనేది చాలా ఉంటాయి. వాటికి మధ్యలో మనకి ఏం చేశారంటే 3 పిన్ సాకెట్ తోటి ఎక్స్ట్రా బోర్డ్స్ కనెక్షన్ ఇచ్చారు. అవి మనం చూసుకోకుండా ఏం చేస్తామంటే డైరెక్ట్ ఆన్ చేస్తాం. ఆన్ చేసి పవర్ వస్తలేదు, మనకు మానిటర్కి రాదు, అప్పుడు సిపియు రెండింటికి రాదు. రానప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, మనకు సిపియు ఆన్ కాదు, మానిటర్ కూడా ఆన్ కాదు. ఆ టైంలో మనం అవి ఖచ్చితంగా చెక్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఎందుకంటే మేము ఇది ఫేస్ చేసినాం. చాలా మంది టీచర్స్ మాకు ఫోన్ చేసి సార్ ఈ మనకు పవరే రావట్లేదు అని చెప్తే మేము అప్పుడు చెప్పామన్నమాట. ఇక్కడ ఒక స్విచ్ ఉంటుంది, ఆ స్విచ్లు అన్ని ఉన్నాయా లేవా చూడండి చేసి అని ఒకసారి చెక్ చేసుకోవాలి. అది రెండు ఈ ప్రాబ్లం కూడా ఉంటుంది, మనకు కరెంట్ ప్రాబ్లం కూడా ఉంటుంది. అదొకటి. నెక్స్ట్ ఇప్పుడు ర్యామ్ స్లాట్ చేంజ్ చేసినాం, 2 చేంజ్ చేసినా కూడా రావట్లేదు అన్నప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలి అంటే ఒకసారి సిపి లోపల మనకు ప్రాసెసర్ ఫ్యాన్ అవన్నీ కరెక్ట్గా తిరుగుతున్నాయా లేవో చెక్ చేసుకొని తిరుగుతున్నాయి అన్నప్పుడు కొత్త ర్యామ్ తీసి పెట్టుకోవాలి. అంటే ఉన్న ర్యామ్ పని చేయట్లేదు, సో న్యూ ర్యామ్ని తీసేసి మనం యాడ్ చేసుకుంటే వచ్చే అవకాశాలే ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. ఇది మనం మెయిన్గా ఉండే ర్యామ్ ప్రాబ్లం అన్నమాట. ఇంకొకటి, ఈ ర్యామ్ ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చినప్పుడు మనకు సిపి కూడా స్టక్ అవుతూ ఉంటుంది మధ్యలో. స్టక్ మీన్స్ మనం వర్క్ చేస్తుంటే స్లోగా రన్ అవ్వడం, లేదా మనం మధ్యలో మౌస్ కానీ కీబోర్డ్ కానీ ఎలాంటి వర్క్ చేయకుండా మధ్యలో స్టక్ అయిపోతుంది. ఆ స్టక్ అయినప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలంటే మనకి ఈ ర్యామ్ ప్రాబ్లం వచ్చింది అని మనం అర్థం చేసుకోవాలి. ఇది గుర్తుపెట్టుకోవాల్సింది ర్యామ్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూస్. రమణాకర్ ఇంకేమైనా యాడ్ చేస్తావాను? హర్షద్,
బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ కూడా ర్యామ్ రిలేటెడ్ ఇష్యూ.
ఓకే. మనకు అప్పుడప్పుడు మధ్యలో అంటే సిస్టమ్ రన్ అవుతుంటేనే ఆటోమేటిక్గా బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ ఎర్రర్ వచ్చేసి సిస్టమ్ అట్లా బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ ఎర్రర్ వచ్చేసి ఆఫ్ అవుతుంది. ఆ టైంలో కూడా మనకు ర్యామ్ ప్రాబ్లం అన్నమాట. అప్పుడు ఏం చేయాలంటే ర్యామ్ తీసి నీట్గా క్లీన్ చేయడము అదొక్కటే సొల్యూషన్. అయినా కూడా రాలేదు అంటే ఖచ్చితంగా ర్యామ్ని ఎక్స్టెండ్ చేసుకోవాలి. ఎక్స్టెండ్ మీన్స్ 1 GB ఉంటే 2 GB పెట్టుకోవాలి. అంటే ఎప్పటికీ ఆ బ్లూ స్క్రీన్ ఎర్రర్ ఎప్పటికీ వస్తుంది అన్నప్పుడు మనకు ఈ సొల్యూషన్ అనమాట. కొత్త ర్యామ్ అయినా పెట్టుకోవాలి, లేకపోతే 1 GB ఉంటే 2 GB పెట్టుకోవాలి. లేకపోతే మన స్కూళ్ళల్లో కొన్ని సిస్టమ్స్కి 256 MB ర్యామ్ కూడా ఉంది, 512 MB ర్యామ్ కూడా ఉన్నాయి. అలాంటప్పుడు మనకి ఈ ఎర్రర్స్ ఎక్కువ వస్తాయి. సో ఖచ్చితంగా మనం వాటిని అప్గ్రేడ్ చేసుకోవాలి కంపల్సరీ. మినిమం ఇప్పుడున్న సిస్టమ్స్ 2 GB మినిమం ఉంటేనే మనకున్న ఈ సాఫ్ట్వేర్స్ ఇవి ఉన్న వర్క్స్కి వర్క్ చేస్తుంది అన్నమాట. మినిమం 2 GB ర్యామ్ ఉండాలి మనకు. ఓకే. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఒక క్వశ్చన్ లక్ష్మీనారాయణ సార్ అడిగాడు. సమ్ ర్యామ్స్ హ్యావ్ డిఫరెంట్ ప్లేసెస్ నాచెస్, ఎందుకు అని అడుగుతున్నాడు. అంటే ఫస్ట్ స్టార్టింగ్ లో వచ్చిన DDR1 ర్యామ్, DDR2, DDR3, ప్రజెంట్ DDR4 నడుస్తుంది. DDR1 ఏమో హోల్స్ ఒక ప్లేస్ లో ఉంటుంది. అదేంటి అంటే చిప్స్ చాలా వస్తాయి దాంట్లో. ఆ చిప్స్ తో పాటు మళ్ళీ హోల్స్ ని అనేది మ్యాచ్ చేసుకుంటూ దాన్ని కొంచెం డిఫరెంట్ ప్లేసెస్ లో పెట్టారు. ఇప్పుడు DDR4 కూడా కొంచెం DDR3కి దగ్గరలో ఉంటుంది. కాకపోతే ఏ ర్యామ్ కి ఆ స్లాట్ మాత్రమే వర్క్ చేస్తుంది. DDR3లో మనం DDR4 ర్యామ్ పెట్టలేము. అండ్ DDR2లో DDR3 కూడా పెట్టలేము. సో అదొక చెక్ చేసుకో. ఓకే, అశోక్ సార్ అడిగాడు, ఇన్ ల్యాప్టాప్ వీఆర్ గెట్టింగ్ బ్లాక్ థిక్ లైన్ ఆన్ ద స్క్రీన్, వాట్స్ ద ప్రాబ్లం? బ్లాక్ థిక్ లైన్ అంటే నాకు తెలిసి డిస్ప్లే ప్రాబ్లం సార్ అది. ఆ డిస్ప్లే అంటే మీరు డిస్ప్లే కనుక కింద పడేదో లేకపోతే మన యూజింగ్ ఎక్కువ అయ్యో ఆ టైంలో ఏమవుతుందంటే మధ్యలో ఒక చిన్న లైన్ వస్తుంది. అది ఏమవుతుంది అంటే పోతుంటే పోతుంటే పెద్దగా స్క్రీన్ వచ్చేసి మీకు ఆ స్క్రీన్ మొత్తానికి పనిచేయదు. అప్పుడు మనం ఏం చేయాలంటే కొత్త స్క్రీన్ వేసుకోవాలి దానికి. How to know the capacity of hardware that can support the RAM extension of capacity?
స్వామి 12:30 అయింది.
Okay, okay,
టీచర్స్ ఇబ్బంది పడతారు, చూడండి మేనేజ్ చేయండి.
ఓకే సార్, ఓకే ఓకే.
Yeah.
మీరు అంటే కొన్ని క్వశ్చన్స్ ఆన్సర్ చేయదలుచుకుంటే ఆ గ్రూప్ లో ఆన్సర్ చేయండి.
ఓకే సార్, ఓకే.
So please take these questions on the Telegram group and respond there so that and we can continue.